Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. This week we are diving into the post-production of a $250 short film called Dive, directed by me, Victoria Horn.
I'm Chuck Norton, co-host, location sound recordist, sound mixer for the short film Dive. We're both micro-budget filmmakers, and for these 3 episodes, we're breaking down the short film Dive. With us today, we have cinematographer and colorist Daniel Klamerus. So let's close out this series with a discussion on editing, coloring, and sound design. Do you want to start us off, Victoria, and kind of just give us the deets on the actual Dive footage?
Yes, the actual specs of the footage itself. So we ended up with a final runtime of this film for 8 minutes, including all credits, logos, whatnot. And the total storage space, I just noted that, well, all of it fits on a 4 terabyte SSD. However, Daniel saved the day and just knew it's about 680 gigabytes of footage.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much. So on that note, Daniel, you're a colorist.
I mean, I do suffer from imposter syndrome, but I've done it.
You have
Yes.
colored many things.
I have, yes.
So there's like an entire certification process. What does that look like?
I mean, you do get a digital certificate there with DaVinci Resolve. So I did do that. It's basically you got, a manual like this thick or a guide. And you just download the footage and kind of follow along and kind of breaks down all the necessary information you might need.
Nice.
And then there's actually a 50-question test at the very end of it.
Okay. Oh.
And you only get like 3 attempts to pass it. And then you have to like wait 6 months or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just like my GED.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I never got that.
I never bothered with a good enough degree.
That's why I'm in film.
To be fair, it got lost in the mail.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can get your certificate if you go through DaVinci's process. Basically,
Yeah.
you need to actually do the packet in order to be able to pass the test, essentially.
I mean, it would be wildly helpful. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend doing it in line. I don't know. It's really streamlined. It's really nice, like how they walk you through it from beginning to end, and then obviously they don't cover everything because there's a million different things for coloring. I'm not even aware of them all. I would imagine so.
Yeah. DaVinci's so complicated. I remember we were shooting a short film, and we thought we wanted to shoot it two-tone, like a two.
Yeah, I remember that.
Two-strip, right? That's how it's called?
Two-strip.
Red, green, two-strip. There's no blue information in there, and so I remember I think you went down a rabbit hole too, and I went down a rabbit hole, and I was trying to figure out all the different ways to do it, and there were so many different ways to do the node structure to where you could make it just to get rid of the blues. It was interesting.
I think we really, God, how long ago was that? That was a year and a half ago?
Yeah, about that.
It wasn't that long ago. I think that one just copped out and used a LUT that kind of emulated that close enough.
Fair.
Yeah.
Just kind of old-timey footage, looking, feel, and vibe.
Which
That's
worked
cool.
as the silent film that it...
Yeah, it was a silent film. Yeah, it was goofy. It was a weird one.
It was
a weird
delightful.
one. Mm-hmm.
It was a fun one.
I enjoyed it. So did it cost money to get the certification from DaVinci?
No, completely free.
Oh, really?
I did. The only thing it cost me was maybe I'm old school, but I wanted the physical manual or guide, if you will.
Your study guide?
Yeah. So I did purchase that.
Well, I suppose that kind of would be helpful too if you have your monitor.
I guess you could have it. I mean, you can download it digitally and just have it on your iPad or whatever and kind of scroll through with it. But I don't know. There's something about the tangible and the smell.
Yeah.
The highlighters.
Yeah.
Did you have you gotten any gigs
Fold it.
as a result of having your color certification through DaVinci?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No. I'm also pretty.
It's as valuable as the cost of the course.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty dog shit at marketing myself and putting myself out there. Oh. So that could be a pretty big contributing factor as well.
That is very likely contributing to things there for sure.
Like Boise's not a big market.
No.
Right? No. And I'm sure if we just asked all the people in the market, hey, do you know Daniel Klamerus? A, question. A B question, did you know he's a colorist? And not very many for A and even less for B.
There we go.
All right, that's fair. Because you are more known as the cinematographer.
Yeah, I do like coloring my own stuff just because, I mean, I know the limitations that I have on set and what I'm trying to achieve, and I'm aware of my abilities in the day of and what I'm capable of doing in post with the color. And so, I mean, yeah, I like knowing what I need to fix and where it is, and instead of relying on someone else to kind of either fix my mistakes or enhance it on their own. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
I agree the same thing with sound, location sound, and then sound mixing. I think it's kind of important you kind of have to do both when you're an indie micro-budget filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, it's not uncommon for somebody to probably shoot and color grade their own footage in a lot of different places. Or
yeah, I mean, look, if I could afford, or if production could afford to have a colorist for any of the projects I've worked on that's better colorist than I mean, I would be welcome to it.
it's just
that would require budget.
Yep, yeah. Budget's important.
And that's not what we do here.
We're not about that.
No.
Do you want to talk about the split tone color grade that you put on Dive specifically?
Sure. The split tone is basically creating a color contrast between the shadows and the highlights. And so what I did was use I think I can repeat myself like almost verbatim, right?
You can repeat yourself as much as you want to.
All right. So you get your 18% middle gray within the color space you're working on, and then that allows you to control. It gives you a point of control of like just adjusting the shadows and everything above the middle grade. So you get a definitive contrast push that you're going to be creating. And so the idea is to just use contrasting colors that will, it actually does a really great job of giving the image shape. Like, because we used a lot of red lighting behind the bar.
Yeah.
And so when we're face on the talent, like they're kind of getting blasted with red a little bit. And so any part of their face that was, shaped with shadow, you remove the red and it kind of gives it like a little green or cyan feel and color. And what that does is it really rounds out the shape, like across someone's face, and just the image in general. Yeah, it's amazing when you look at a before and after, how much depth it just gives the image.
Yeah.
It is really nice.
It looked good.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I kind of see what you're saying, because like usually in a film you want to get a little bit of that shadow fall off just to make sure you have enough depth really on like their face and the different features of the individual. But this way it just makes that pop a little bit more.
Yeah, because I mean ultimately as a DP or cinematographer, you're trying to make a two-dimensional image look 3D, right? So that's why you add shape and contrast to people and environments, so that and like foreground objects, so that way it gives
a little
depth to the environment, and
Came together well.
It really did. Okay, so then switching around a little bit, what were the driving ideas and inspiration? If that was the color grade, what was the inspiration behind some of the audio and the actual sound design for the final mix?
So Dive was fun in a couple areas, and that was
And horrible in others.
It was difficult in others. I talked last week how the audio was super noisy in the location. So when we were inside the bar, because they had all the refrigerators running, which you need to have because it's a restaurant. So I did my best to close distance between the microphone and the talent to maximize clarity there. So I spent a lot of time in post cleaning that up.
Yeah.
But the sound design element, I think what I leaned into there was the buzz from from the open sign at the beginning, you created an animated title sequence of dive.
Yeah.
And so what I did there is I had like a neon light hum that I added, and then I pitched them up, pitched them down, kind of like cross-faded them to give it a little bit more of a punch, and then carried that through as noise into the bar itself. Because the bar was so noisy, I wanted to have a bunch of ambience in there that can help cover that loudness up that was just gonna be present. So the sound design elements that I used was specifically to try to mask the noisy dialogue that we got, but it all ended up being okay. I thought it sounded fine at the end, fortunately.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to iZotope RX, because I bought that plugin like a couple months ago, and it has saved me so much time cleaning up noisy dialogue.
Oh, nice.
It's normally what you do when you get an audio that you have a refrigerator running or you have HVAC running. What you have to do is you have to take a silent sample of that, and then basically like use that as a reference noise. It flips the phase on that and then kind of covers the rest of the audio file, so that area becomes silence, but then it destroys some of the information in people's dialogue. The plugin, though, just kind of takes care of that automatically. The AI stuff is getting a lot better, but I've used Premieres, I've used DaVinci's, I've used Auditions, and iZotope RX basically put the plugin in, and it did just as well, if not better, as me manually going in and messing with the files individually.
Dang.
So huge time saver there. So that was awesome.
Okay, I'm impressed.
But yeah, sound design, I thought it was fun to mess with your Victress Finalis logo, because you had an animated logo there.
Yeah.
And then I tried to connect the sound design on that element with the sound design on the dive title itself. And then inside the actual bar, you said you wanted it to be empty.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to kind of sound empty. And then you got some of your aunt's music, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And so what I added into the bar scene then is that music coming out of what sounds like kind of a crappy speaker.
Yeah.
And I felt like that kind of I put a little bit of reverb on there and then EQ'd it so it sounds like it's just coming.
It sounded a little tinny almost.
Yeah, tinny, and it made the place feel a little bit more empty to me anyway. So that's what I did on the sound design, and it was a fun one to mess with after you get all the audio cleaned up, but which I said that iZotope RX plugin saved me a lot of hassle there, so I could take my time instead of focusing on cleaning up mistakes, which is usually 90% of what you do when you're sound mixing. And it cut that down to like 60, 75%. So that was nice.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. So valuable plugin.
Yes. Highly recommended. And
Okay.
they usually have it on sale like a couple times a year. So
I wasn't going to, but I'm going to pull out my phone and write that down. Or shut that down.
Because he's not going to listen to the episode later. So
I don't want to listen to me.
that's other people's job. Do you want to talk about the timeline for the edit, Victoria?
yeah, because it was actually a pretty quick turnaround for how much post got done to it. I was actually kind of surprised. So the first edit took about 10 days, and it landed at about 10 minutes without any logos or credits or anything like that. And then continued editing it for another 9 days after that to get it down to the 8. So I'm that jerk when I'm editing footage where after I get a version done, I'm going to walk away from it for a whole day at least. So that way I can just get some space from it. And then when I come back to it and watch it again, I can immediately judge past me for making horrible mistakes and then immediately recut everything entirely.
Do you ever get lost? Do you ever forget to look for the forest or lose the forest for the trees when you're editing?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I had to start taking a day to like step aside from it, because I'll get stuck on something that is so menial and does not matter whatsoever. I think I mentioned some of the continuity stuff for hand placements and everything. Nobody ever notices that.
No.
Nobody's going to notice if somebody's hand was here or here. And that's such a small difference. I don't know why. But then I'm going to go through all the footage all over again and see if there's just one more where maybe their hand was just a little bit higher, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I need to just let it go, but I won't.
Well,
So,
it could be a fraction of a percent better.
yes,
So
but at that
marginally,
point, yeah.
I think getting your actual idea on film like to 100% it's like trying to reach the speed of light. Like you can't do it, and it takes like exponentially more effort to get from 98 to 99% done.
Yeah.
Like I feel like sometimes 94 to 99% is like just as much work to get to 94% from zero.
Yeah.
Well, and do you have to give yourself a deadline for editing? Because I don't
because
know
I will
about,
just keep going.
Yeah, I don't know about for you with sound, but I feel like I can do the same with color.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I don't, or even just production, just on the day, lighting. If there's time, I'm just going to keep tinkering with stuff until there's no more time.
Yeah, because you scheduled the time for it, so why wouldn't you just use all of it?
Got to use it. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Makes
Wrap
sense.
early, let people go home from this unpaid project and enjoy time with their families?
Yeah, not okay.
No, absolutely not. So I think that was the longest part, was that editing all of it down was technically over the course of 19 days.
Okay.
So we hit picture lock on March 31st, at which point I sent it off to both of you.
Yes.
And then, Danny, I don't know if you remember this, your color grade was complete on April 6th. So that is less than a week turnaround time.
And I took 3 days longer than you. I was on April 9th. What the hell was I doing?
To be fair, you were waiting on me to get you the music from my aunt.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
So I was still slowing you down.
To be fair, there was something with my house. I don't even remember what it was at this point, but something had to be done by then.
Yes.
So I had to have it done
You did.
by then.
There were supposed to be contractors coming to your house.
That is what
Yes.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
So,
were not going to have a workstation.
yes.
Yeah.
So you had to crank that out quickly.
Good thing they didn't follow through. Am I right, everyone?
You'll get your house put back together one day.
That doesn't matter.
It's fine. And then the final submission was April 13th, which, full disclosure, the deadline for the film festival got moved. However, after the 9th, those last 4 days was just me messing with the text message animations.
Yeah, you were very obsessed about those.
I
thought you did a really great job on those.
Thank you.
It turned out better than I don't know what my expectation was, but it was better than my expectation.
I watched the first draft and you were worried about whether or not they were going to be legible. And I'm like, I thought they were pretty good. You did continue to improve upon them.
I did continue to mess with them. I kept making the font just a little bit larger, making sure to emphasize like a sans serif font so that way it's completely legible. I was worried about were you going to be able to tell who was actually texting versus like, are we seeing this character receiving a text or sending one? Basically, I completely lost the whole forest of the movie for the text message tree.
Well, to be fair, the movie itself, the plot of the movie is based on the text messages.
Yes.
And the actual footage that we shot has nothing to do with what's going on behind the scenes. So it was a cool idea, cool script, and well executed overall, but the text messages are a crux to the entire film. Without those text messages, you don't even have a story. There's no tension.
It's fair. They are. I will say, I've also mentioned before in another episode when we were in the early stages of Dive, and I knew I would have all these text messages, which Daniel was kind enough to say 19, actually. We could, in this 8-minute movie.
I counted.
Yes. In this 8-minute movie, we could have cut to a phone 19 times.
I was like, how could we visually show that 19 different ways?
And keep this interesting.
That would have been tricky.
It would have been awful. So I really hate it when text messages typically appear in movies and TV because I can never read them. I'm also a very slow reader. I will just own that.
Same.
It's words are hard, but I'm not as much of an idiot as that sentence makes me sound like. Usually, actually. Anyway, the text messages themselves needed to be legible, and so I had to go to my lowest abled audience member, which is myself, I think. And so I just kept trying to make them larger and larger until I finally figured it out. But I will say there was one person when we posted a short video on TikTok. Schism is the TikTok user. And they mentioned specifically a movie called Katya Dreams of Waking Up.
Okay.
And how well that movie did with illustrating text messages on a screen. And I will say, I did not have any problems reading any of those messages. They ended up having, it was so surreal. It's very art house. It's very indie film. But the way that they did it was that the screen was almost half consumed by this phone. But everything that happens to the phone screen, you see happen on screen. So when later on in the movie, she drops the phone and then it gets a crack in it and it just suddenly the screen cracks at the same time the phone hits the ground. It's really cool. They did such a good job with it. So I really, I didn't end up doing that, obviously, in this film, but I really appreciate that user for recommending that film, not just because it was really validating. It's all about this woman just trying to get through life as she hustles through all these different jobs, and all she wants to do is just go on a vacation. I'm oversimplifying it a lot. There's a lot of subtext to this film, but it was just very validating for anyone who feels way overworked in society right now, maybe every independent filmmaker. It's a validating film. It is. So
I'll check it out.
yeah. Okay. The most difficult part of the edit for either of you. Who wants to go first?
Go for it, Danny. What was the trickiest part on the color grade?
Pass.
Oh, okay. I'll take this one then. I wrote it down. The trickiest part, because again, noisy environment. The trickiest part for me was balancing the dialogue to all the ambient noise I had to add into the mix. So we had. I'm trying to remember all the different noises I had in there, because it was the speaker with the music coming over like a crappy speaker. There was a nighttime cricket chirping that I added in, and then I put a low pass filter on that so it sounded like it was outside. And a hum, I just added a hum that connected with the open sign and the dive animation, so like the audience was already braced for it, so I cranked it in those parts.
Nice.
And then brought it down lower. And then just, the normal room tone in there too. So it was pretty busy, and you kind of want to keep those levels monitored, especially the singing, the music.
Yeah.
Because it did have actual lyrics in it. It wasn't just like ambient music. And so you got to be careful on that. So that was probably the trickiest part, to make sure that they were intelligible, because you want to be able to understand everything everybody says, but you still want to kind of hit the audience with a wall of sound as much as possible.
They need an artistic cacophony,
yes.
if you will.
Mm-hmm. A cacophony of sound.
So I guess, what was it? The most challenging part?
Yeah. The challenging part of the color grade.
Well, I guess with the implementing or executing the split tone, I did not use the LUT method of the two strip.
Okay.
There wasn't just a LUT of this exact thing you could just drop on there?
I did look. And I thought, I'm not going to do that this time.
Nice.
I'm gonna have more. Well, because the problem with just throwing a LUT on there is that you lose control of what you're actually trying to implement, and you're kind of just at the whim of what it creates for you, right? And you can obviously manipulate it after applying the LUT, but opting to just do it by hand, I guess. Actually, one of the challenging things was so the bar scene.
Yeah.
The bar scene where we're in the bar shooting across the bar top on the talent. If you notice, I don't know if you did, but it was challenging as to where I let that middle. Ideally, you want to choose the middle gray point, the 18% gray. But what that was doing, because we had such contrast in the scene, that her hair, you would get like any little stray strands, or anything that wasn't
the little
completely
flyaways.
down. Thank you, flyaways.
Yeah.
Those were obviously much brighter than like the hair and on the like just directly underneath that was shadowed. So what you would get is a little bit of that two-tone or split tone with the green like right on like the right above her ear, it would be green. But then because we're contrasting, so we're pushing a little more red into the highlights. It would be a little more orangey and red, and then fall into the green. And I was like, does this look like she has colored hair, like dyed hair?
Did we make her a redhead or auburn, or as if she's dyed green lowlights in her hair?
Potentially.
I didn't notice that.
Maybe. So and then it was like, so what I did was you can bypass the nodes in DaVinci, so you can get like a before and after. So what I did was I like turned it off and just saw what it looked like without the split tone. And I mean, the contrast was just so great between the flyaways and on her, what was pulled back or whatever, that you could even still tell, even though it wasn't a color contrast difference, like that contrast difference was so great. I was like, I'm just gonna roll with it, and it kind of just is.
I mean, it
Hopefully
looks
no
great.
one notices, or it's not distracting.
I mean, I'm definitely going to go back and look again now.
Sure, yeah, take a look. Take a look.
I want to see that now, but I feel like every time I was looking at it, there was nothing that felt
on her
uncomfortable
middle
or out of
frame,
place
like frame left, middle frame. Yeah, you'll see the flyaways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go dig into it, but I
take a look.
bet it's still great. I didn't notice anything. I didn't notice any
good.
problems with it, so.
Do you want to talk about killing your darlings, Victoria?
Oh, yeah, because that was absolutely the hardest part of this. And at one point, I played a version of what I believed was the final cut for Chuck. And right afterward, he just kind of looked at me and he's like, "You kept the whole script in there."
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because the actors just did such a good job with it, and all the footage just looked really pretty. And I don't know, I really loved it. So I did finally have to cut some of the lines of dialogue just to make it clip along a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But I died a little that day when I did.
I think you were very anxious when I asked to sit down in front of your workstation on Premiere Pro, and you're looking at it, and I'm like, I think I can take this 1.5 minute intro down to about 30 seconds.
Yes.
And I think I did.
You did, and that's the intro we ended up using, because you're right, the shorter version was better. Oh, so there was one shot that we didn't use.
Which was?
The bartender polishing glasses.
Oh, that's true.
Because I shot that for the intro, and then you ended up cutting it.
Yeah, sorry, Tate. I cut his intro, but I thought he had a good intro when he actually walked in.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, when you introduce the character, do you just want to just throw an image of them up there? But when Tate walks in and kind of like basically stone cold doesn't talk to the dude that walks in and sits down at the bar, I'm like, that's kind of cool.
That was the better entrance. No, you were right. And the shorter version of the intro worked so much better. It was a lot cleaner.
I'm a big fan of indie films just trying to cut out as much as possible.
Yeah.
I feel like it's riskier to be too long than it is to be too short.
Yeah.
Always go with the shorter option and get the information across.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, pacing is another thing too that you got to take into account. You don't want to like ruin your pacing by just having everything, unless it's supposed to be like comedic or whatever. But after that, I think you cut the whole thing because it was at 10.
Yeah, and then it ended up at 8 with credits. So we cut out some stuff.
Because you're at 10 and then the credits were going to start.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a major chopping, but it clips along really well, and you still left those spaces for tension too.
Yeah, there's still some awkward silences, but it's not every single awkward silence that we shot, because we did film a lot of awkward silences, which were delightful.
They were good.
They were good.
Do you want to update us about Dive?
Oh yeah, I do have some updates, because Daniel does not know about most of these updates.
Not privy.
So you will be. Okay, so this film was made for the Idaho Film Family Festival, which is a wonderful festival that we've already talked about enough, so I won't go into it into too much detail. Mm-hmm. And there, we did win Best Screenplay, and Catherine Roundy did win Best Actress, which is awesome.
2 awards, first screening. Boom.
Not bad. Not bad. The next film festival that I submitted to was the American Visionaries Film Festival. And this one, I think, is a very pertinent note. If you're going to submit to a film festival, you should double check the submission deadline, the notification date, and the start date for the event. And perhaps if the final deadline is also the notification date and the event, the physical in-person event, is the next day, maybe you shouldn't submit on that day if it is the submission deadline.
So you didn't get into that one.
We didn't definitely not get into that one.
And that was because you submitted it and then screening was the next day.
Yes.
So there's no way they even looked at that thing.
There is no way. That was my
Or maybe they did.
stupidity. Well, I guess that's fair. I don't know.
You can let us know, American Visionaries, if you did actually watch Dive.
Did you
but
watch Dive? No.
It seems a little suspect if they're leaving it open and then having the festival
I
roll
think
the next day.
they trusted people to read the dates and the deadlines. I think they had enough faith in humanity to do that, and I failed them.
They also appreciated your contribution.
They probably did.
They did.
I bet I could send them a message and ask, hey, so I submitted on the notification date. Any chance you could reimburse me for that so I could submit next year or give me a coupon code for an entry into the next time?
Sure.
Oh, there we
Maybe
go.
I'll try that. Okay, so that one was not a great start. However, then we went to the Dunwich Horror Festival, which it's another online festival. My goal is to do mostly online festivals so that I don't jeopardize some of the,
Premiere status.
Premiere status. Thank you. Yes, for some of the different potential options. So Dunwich Horror Festival, another online festival, super delightful. A lot of their logos are cute little Cthulhu's, and it's really cute. And we won Best Short Film there.
Strong.
In the under 10 minutes category, but did win
Boom.
Best Short for that one, which was great. Indie X Film Festival, a little bit more popular. Most people probably know that one. So all I know right now is that it is an official selection,
Nice.
which is cool.
Oh.
I don't have
in.
any idea if we're going to win any awards for it yet, but they do have in-person events. I want to say at least annually, maybe quarterly. So that could be a thing and an option. I'm pretty sure they're based out of LA. And then the next one is a film festival I had never heard of before, but was intrigued because it's the monthly film festival, which meant it was going to be a fast turnaround time and it's only an online screener. I was really excited to submit to it because it wasn't super expensive. We ended up doing pretty well. Danny, you got a nomination for Best Cinematography.
Oh.
Yeah, so I thought that was very nice. We also ended up winning Film of the Month, Director of the Month, Screenwriter of the Month, and Actress of the Month again for Catherine Roundy.
Very strong.
Yeah, so that was
Nailed
cool.
it.
And what I really like about this festival is that well, first of all, they actually do send you a cute little trophy, apparently. You don't have to pay extra for that, which is nice.
Oh, awesome.
I know. So I'm like, oh, cute. And then you'll also get an interview when you win Best Film, which is kind of fun. And that way you can use it in some of your own promotional materials. If you pay for the review critique, you can use that on IMDb for any of your own promotional materials, which is kind of nice. So I did pay for that. So we'll see what the review and the critique say. Hopefully something good. I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing to have for later on,
It
building
really is.
publicity and getting local media attention or any media attention. And
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah, lower entry studios, we had to just pay for those outright to get
You usually
quotes
do.
for our film. So I'm sure that's
So the fact that this was relatively cheap and just wrapped up in the cost of the submission to the film festival, I was pretty happy about that. I thought that was really nice. But the coolest thing, and they do have feature festivals or feature films as well, not just shorts, is that they will also, if with your permission, send a screener link to a distribution company just to get the ball kind of rolling there.
Nice.
So for the first time ever, I have the potential for a distribution company to see a short film that I've worked on.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your plan with Dive as far as film festival submissions? So you started the process. Obviously, the movie was completed not that long ago.
Yes.
You're submitting to film festivals that are basically super fast turnaround.
Yes.
And what's your plan moving forward?
The plan is essentially Laurel shopping,
Okay, nice.
trying to build some hype around it.
Just being honest here.
I'm all for being transparent. So the entire idea here is I don't want to ruin the premiere status. I want a fast turnaround time because I want as many laurels as possible, and I need to get working on and finishing the feature script because this is sort of a prototype sampler piece, if you will. It's essentially a pitch for a feature film that I would love to make, but will need funding for. So I have submitted it to a couple larger festivals as well, like TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. which-
Nice. Fingers crossed.
That'd be really cool.
You got to play to win.
Oh, that's true.
You know?
That's very true. So some bigger festivals, a lot of first-year festivals where They're tied to bigger name people just because that seemed like a good strategic move. Because if I'm guessing that they're going to be producers with a lot of money there, I want to be there. And if it's a first-year festival, maybe they'll have fewer submissions, so my odds go up.
Yeah.
It's just a strategy numbers game at this point, but that's kind of the goal with Dive. So we'll keep you updated as it goes.
Nice.
Nice. Dig it.
Right on. Well, did anybody have anything else to add before we succinctly say goodbye?
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Right on. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.